In the Gospel of Mark, we have a record of the interaction between Jesus and his disciples after they failed to heal a boy that they were praying for. In Mark chapter 9, here's what it says. Verse 14. It says, when they came to the other disciples, they saw a large crowd around them and the teachers of the law arguing with him. As soon as all the people saw Jesus, they were overwhelmed with wonder and ran to greet him. What are you arguing with them about? He asked. A man in the crowd answered, Teacher, I brought you my son, who's possessed by a spirit that has robbed him of speech. Whenever it seizes him, it throws him to the ground. He foams at the mouth, gnashes his teeth, and becomes rigid. I asked your disciples to drive out the spirit, but they could not. And when Jesus saw that the crowd was running to the scene, he rebuked the impure spirit. You deaf and mute spirit, he said, I command you, come out of him and never enter him again. The spirit shrieked, convulsed him violently, and came out. The boy looked so much like a corpse that many said, he's dead. But Jesus took him by the hand and lifted him to his feet, and he stood up. After Jesus had gone indoors, his disciples asked him privately, why couldn't we drive it out? And he replied, this kind can only come out by prayer and fasting. In high school, one of the sports that I played was soccer. I was a forward and long ball was my game. Anytime our team got the ball, they would just boot it as far as they could toward the other team's goal. And I would try to beat the other team to the ball, get a breakaway on goal, and score. I was big and fast, and nobody could stop this strategy. In fact, the only thing that could stop it was an opponent that you couldn't even see. You see the field and the teams and the ball and the goal could all be the same, yet our offense would screech to a halt. How? Who or what was this unseen opponent? The wind. When the wind was with us, it was great. But when the wind was against us, no matter what we did, we could not continue to play the same kind of game and get the ball down the field. We couldn't score. So we had to use a different type of strategy. We actually had to pass the ball to work it down the field. It took more work, more effort, more skill. It took more time. It took more people. But if we wanted to score and defeat the opponent, we had to do the extra work, employing a different strategy. Jesus is telling his disciples and us today that there are times in our spiritual life when the wind is with us. We're moving forward and gaining victory in life, and it comes naturally and easily. But then there are also specific times when the wind is against us. Things turn more difficult. We face more opposition, and although things don't look any different, they are. The attack of the enemy is greater. The invisible spiritual forces against us are winning. And in order for us to win this battle and to progress, it's going to take a different strategy than what got us the win before. It's going to take more effort, more skill, more time. It's going to take sacrifice and devotion unlike it ever has before. The new strategy for victory is a specific effort of prayer and fasting. We're all tempted to think that the longer you are a Christian, the easier it becomes to live the Christian life. If anything we learn from this story is that it's the opposite. For the very first few years of following Jesus, it seemed like the disciples could do ministry relatively easily. Now, though, they had to make some adjustments in order to move forward. And this is what God does in our life, but He does it for us. He wants to take us to new heights, and He does that through greater victories. But in order for us to get the victory, we have to retool the strategy. This time in the story, the demon would not come out by ordinary means, but only through a specific focus of prayer and fasting. There are victories in your life that God wants for you. Healing in your marriage, fix your family, to break that addiction, to overcome that habitual pattern of sin, maybe physical healing, or to overcome depression or anxiety or a host of other things. There are things you've been praying for months about, even years, yet you've seen no results. There are answers or guidance that you've been seeking and have come up empty. God might not be saying, no, never. He might just be saying, let's go deeper together. You see, God's delays are not necessarily God's denials. Don't rely on yesteryear's spiritual growth and victories. Maybe it's just going to take a new method. If you're wanting to win the battles before you, you must be willing to put in the spiritual sweat equity to get the upper hand on the enemy. This is fasting. My prayer is that you take upon you these spiritual disciplines of prayer and fasting. My prayer is that you'll grow deeper and deeper in your walk with the Lord through them. May you never be the same again.